Hello. Yes. I put like really thick gloves on, even though it's like almost middle of summer. I'll I'll have them on and bring the sword to the trunk of my car and drive off to the place we have previously agreed with her. And I left a note at her current haven, off to meet my sire. Ew.
Okay, there we go. Apologies. We didn't get to do sound tests beforehand. But yes. So you start your night by getting ready. You depart to the location. What location would you have in mind for something like this?
Mm, Probably something close to abandoned church
Okay.
should be fitting.
So you you end up choosing one of the buildings close to the abandoned church, which is technically in the war zone. But you find one of the abandoned buildings nearby that sort of fits the purpose, and it's quiet enough from what you've seen. You eventually show up, um, and at this point, I would assume you've already given the sword to your sire.
I'd bring it myself.
Okay, to
Probably.
this. Okay, got it. So you show up carrying the sword,
Hmm.
like wrapped up in cloth or something.
And thick as gloves.
Um, so you approach the building. You enter, and inside, almost as if not quite fitting with with her surroundings, is your sire sitting in a chair that was clearly brought in from somewhere. A chair in really good condition compared to the essentially derelict building you chose to use for this. She is sitting, and next to her is the ghoul you've met before. Um, the ghoul bows, and Liliana, your sire, seems to be sort of playing with a ring in her fingers, and then looks to you and says, "Right on time."
Even miss. You taught me the punctuality very well.
Glad some of the information slipped through. Do you have the item with you?
Yes, I do. And I give it
Um,
to the ghoul.
the ghoul takes it in his hands. Uh, the ghoul takes it in his hands, and he seems to start walking towards a table. He places the item still wrapped up in the
Hmm.
cloth, and after putting it down, he starts backing away from it, and he seems to sort of be struggling to keep his composure and places his hand on his chest. And with a very calm demeanor, turns to the both of you and says, I'm afraid I might not be able to hold the item very effectively. It seems to restrict my breathing to some extent. Not too unsimilar from the effects your blessed blood is capable of causing. Liliana seems to frown for a moment and says, Indeed. Let's have a look at it. She gets up, almost as if floating off the chair rather than getting up like any normal person. And she slowly makes her way to the sword. She sort of flips the... Excuse me. She flips the cloth out of the way, revealing the item. And she sort of hovers her hand above it and says, This item at some point has been touched by our bloodline. To what extent is the question. What information do you have about it?
Just a moment. I'll go through my pages of years and years of memories. To my hand, it felt like holding a torch that burns way too close to my hand. And from my books, let's say, it seems like something our clan could have hand in. There was a mention of items used to ward the congregation from the unholy presence that stains it.
I see. But it did feel like holding something dangerous to you for a moment.
Yes.
Let us attempt something. She takes the cloth rather carefully and places the sword on the ground. And after signaling to the ghoul sort of sweeps some of the dust away from an area close to the sword, and she kneels in front of it. The ghoul then proceeds to do something for a spot opposite to her, and she gestures for you to sit.
Kneel? I do it.
Okay. After you do, you see her place both her hands on her knees. And she seems to close her eyes and start focusing. And then she says, We're going to perform a ritual. I need to feel where the shadows have touched this sword. To what extent. And when that breach of its purpose happened. It will not be pleasant, but I will need your assistance.
Whatever help I can do.
Place your hands on the sword.
Without gloves?
Without gloves. So roll courage for me.
Yep. And if I remember correctly, I don't roll virtues more dice than I have in my path.
Exactly.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So you feel that presence, but you hold strong against it. You definitely feel your instincts demanding that you move away from this thing, and yet you don't. You place your hands on it, and after a moment, you focus, and she seems to lean back and places her hands to the side. And as she moves her hands farther away from her, you see the ghoul start moving out of the room, and the entire room starts getting darker and darker and darker until it's far too dark to even see the walls of the room. After a moment, she starts moving her hands closer and places both her hands on top of yours. And the feeling that you had of the fear, that instinct that pulled you away, that feeling starts getting stronger. And as you almost instinctively pull your hands a little away, you feel that your hands do not move whatsoever, given the fact that your sire is now holding your wrists pressed against the sword. And the shadows start getting closer, and you start seeing shapes forming as they approach the sword. The shadows seem to cover the sword completely, and then you see small tentacle-like shapes emerge from the shadows and run up your wrists. And you feel this cold embrace from the shadows. And I will need you to roll me Wits Occult.
It's called Ritual Supply.
Yes.
Just 1 second. God. Just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry.
My microphone is picking up something. I'm just going to fix it. We'll be back in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
We're back. Apologies for that. So that's your roll?
Yes.
All right, cool. So as your hands are essentially forcefully held to the sword, you start seeing shapes in the shadows. And at one point, you believe you see a few images. First, the sort of as if shadows cast upon shadows. You see the silhouette of a knight piercing the heart of another person. By the silhouette of the mouth, as it's sort of with its side to you, you can sort of see the faint shape of fangs as the person screams while the sword is being plunged into their heart. Then you see another image of the knight with the sword on the ground, holding a chalice and drinking from it. after you see images of that same night, even though there's no armor present, you can tell it's him. You see images of this knight essentially kneeling with its hands up, and the shape of a cross in front of him. You then see images of this knight once more in battle, only this time he points the sword forward, and you see tentacles from the abyss rupturing from the ground. And then you see images of this same knight laying on his deathbed with the sword. And you can tell that there's a very long passage of time after these flashes. After which, you see a faint shape of a woman you recognize, a woman you know to be dead now.
Yes.
She seems to hold the sword for a moment. She seems to essentially jam it in the dirt, take a few steps back, and holds her hand out. And as soon as she holds her hand out, you see this flash of light coming from her hand, and the shadows of the room all dissipate at that moment. And you feel this sting in your hands as soon as that happens. And as you do, you pull your hands away, and you sort of realize that the room is no longer doing what it did before. And your sire is calmly, with her hands on her knees, just watching what happens to you. And she looks to you and says, "So, what did you see?"
A knight way before that killed, I'd assume, a La Sombra with a sword, at least pierced their heart, drank blood from a chalice, and wielded the arms in a battle.
A human?
Through the sword. I'd assume a ghoul, probably. But he died of very old age.
You are sure he was using this power through the sword?
I saw the arms lunging from a sword.
I see. What else can you tell me?
And then I saw the person that wielded that sword in a battle against my pack, doing some sort of that, and flash of light coming from her hands.
I see. I may have to do some more research on this, but it seems we are not dealing with something that came from our clan. At least not in the way we thought. My suspicion is that this is the result of a mage's experiments. An attempt to replicate something we can do.
That is curious, but it feels dangerous.
It does. I'll have to do some more research on it. May I take it?
Of course.
Very well. In the meantime, I will need your help with something else. Another matter. Not too painful, I assure you, but something that does require a measure of attention. some, well, some expediency as well. You see, there's a limit of time where this particular task can be fulfilled.
I'm all ears.
There's someone in town. Well, I suppose there's no point in dragging it out. My sire is in town.
See.
He would like to see me, but I need to make sure that, well, there's something of mine that I would like you to keep from his eyes.
I would most definitely try.
Very good. Just so you know, not even the servants know of this, so I am trusting you implicitly. She gets up and dusts off her dress, then walks towards the chair, next to which there's her bag, sort of leaning on the arm of the chair. She opens it and retrieves from within what looks like a very, very old necklace. She takes the necklace and hands it over to you.
Yeah, I'll take it in my hands. Something I should know more, or just no questions asked?
You may ask questions if you are curious, but I only need the item kept away from him.
Historical value or monetarily? Like show the necklace.
She seems to ponder for a moment and then says, well, I trust you enough. She reaches towards the necklace, which has this sort of oval shape.
Mm-hmm.
She presses the sides of it and it clicks open. And within, you see a very old picture of your sire on one side. And on the other side, a very faint picture of a man.
Mm-hmm.
A man who you recognize as one of the ghouls your sire had way back in the day, who, as far as you know, was no longer useful, if you understand my meaning, and who was dispatched, allegedly. However, given the fact that she has this necklace, you're smart enough to basically go, he might still be around, if she's that fucking crazy.
I see.
Remember, he cannot know about this.
Oh, sure.
Jack, if he does find out, we know what will happen.
I'd assume at least your head would fly. And mine would probably too.
My head would fly.
Or
for
something
sure.
way worse.
That's most likely. So I'm assuming I can trust you with this.
Yes, you can.
Good.
Need be, he won't find it at the bottom of the ocean. One question, like out of character: is it silver, or is it not?
It's not silver. It's
Okay.
it seems to be a metal, but you'd wager it's probably gold.
Okay.
Not silver though.
I would feel if it's silver.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Just
I'm
because it's
accounting for it. She, after a moment of looking to the ground quite pensively, for a moment you feel as if she wants to say something, but instead she simply turns to the side and says, "Thank you for assisting me with this." She clicks her fingers, and the ghoul walks back into the room and wraps the sword up, picks it up. And Liliana...
Before he arrives, I just like put the necklace in my pocket.
Liliana simply turns to you and says, "If there's any assistance you need other than this sword, you know how to contact me."
Yes. By the way, your contact from the north was rather interested in the state of the girl. I hope she's well, because I told him so.
I was made aware of what you did. I'm glad to see there's still a bit of Jack left.
Yeah. A bit of me is still left in Normandy, you know.
We all hold on to what used to be. Either way, I must be going now.
I bid you farewell.
She gives you a slight bow and starts walking away. Is there anything else you do after this?
I just ran all the way in my mind just to find a way to keep this necklace safe.
Okay. I'm sure we can discuss the details at a later point.
Yeah.
We will take a short break, after which we will continue tonight's episode. Welcome back. We return to another night where Larry, in his usual nightly activities. Seems to be simply hanging out in the garden of the haven, watching some crows lay in the nearby fens. One of them rests on his finger. And how does Larry treat the bird?
Larry, due to enormous size of his hands compared to the crow, he just uses his pinky to gently pat it on the head and maybe he gathered around some types of seeds or something like that for it to chop on.
Mm-hmm. You see that the bird seems a bit hesitant to let you touch it, but you gently make sure that it's comfortable and then sort of scratching the top of its head. It seems to enjoy it, and as soon as you place the snacks, it starts pecking at them quite happily. You even hear it sort of respond every time you look at it. Kind of caws at you once in a while. And soon after, you hear the window, like one of those sliding window doors. You hear the window slide open, and Serena walks out. And as soon as she does, all the birds fly off.
Larry grunts a bit, gets up, turns around, bows his head.
Yes, the crows are not exactly compatible with me. Or any animals, for that matter.
I see.
They certainly seem to enjoy your company, though. Are you ready?
I am.
Right then. Well, let's go inside. And let's go inside and go to the basement.
Larry will.
Or rather, Miguel, since this is a mansion, like the living room is probably pretty big.
It is, yeah.
And also, I can technically choose, if I roll really well, I can choose a lower strength.
Yeah.
I was just concerned with, for example, Larry fully reliving the memory and acting upon it, and then
Flying through the fucking roof.
For example.
No, you can choose to what extent he relives the memory.
Right then, let's get comfy. And Serena sits down on one of the armchairs and gestures Larry towards the sofa.
Larry obediently sits down.
Okay, so now you don't have any memories, and the way this works is I'm going to be describing a certain emotion to you as I activate my power. That will make you relive the memory associated with that memory that you experienced during that emotion. Since you have no memories whatsoever, how about we start with something positive?
Of course.
Right then. So, Serena switches on a TV, putting on just some fireplace on the
Mhm.
TV. Or rather, not even fireplace, because vampires and dementation can,
Make things fun,
even if.
yes.
Mm-hmm. She puts on something like night like a picture of like some night forest with
The
some
little
minimum
toad hanging
animation.
on one of the leaves and
Yes,
stuff. Anything like that.
with a little with a little toad hanging on the leaf, specifically that. Mm. With the quiet music too. She
Mm-hmm.
puts on lo-fi with a frog. And she starts calmly speaking. Mm, let's remember the last time um, you felt relaxed, content, happy. Um, the days when you had no troubles, when you were simply happy uh, to exist. Mm, something that invokes a feeling of warmth and uh, comfort within you. Perhaps somebody hugging you, a conversation with your loved one, or something like that. Mm. And let me roll. Mm. Beleze.
Okay.
Mm,
So that
mm.
is.
That is 3 successes.
I believe so, yes.
Um, mm,
Wait, the difficulty of the power is 7, isn't it? So 2 successes.
okay, so yeah, 2 successes. So Larry will be able to see or hear patterns tied to strong emotional memories. They can see faces, pictures, or
Mm-hmm.
hear sounds and music.
Mm-hmm. So, Larry, just to make sure, as you think of the memories described, what specifically do you feel at this moment?
Well, I think I feel like peace and maybe a warming essence I have rarely felt since I gained my conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when hanging around with crows
Okay.
and just relaxing.
All right. And as you relax, you turn your attention to the TV, this image of small forest with a tiny pond and some animals resting here and there. And the image starts to morph in your vision. For a second, you think you're just imagining things, but it looks real. And you see images of a series of structures. From the look of it, it might be the inside of a mine. It seems to be like tunnels held together with some metal structures. And as you continue seeing these patterns, eventually you remember the feeling of hugging someone. And the main idea that you get is you assuring this person that everything will be okay. They're going to be safe with you. That's it. You are pretty sure that's what you're telling this person. Um, and as the person you're hugging sort of lets go, you see this image of a very deformed man wearing some very old-fashioned clothes. You can roll intelligence and, let's say, academics, just to see if you can spot, like, generally what the era is.
Can you roll 4B now, please?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
One moment. So that would be... Okay. You recognize the type of shirt he's wearing. It was popular for a while, but the style was at its height around the 70s, maybe early 80s. And as this guy lets go, you see that his very deformed face, he sort of like moves back what little hair he has left. And he looks you straight in the eyes, and you see streaks of blood going down his face as if he was just crying. And you notice a few characteristics about him. You notice that he's got a very gaunt expression. The faint smile sort of makes you see all the teeth crooked in different directions, none of them really pointing the way they should. And the most striking aspect of him is that you notice that he is missing one eye, and the other one is this very vivid orange. And he looks to you with a faint smile as if he trusts you. You feel sort of a kinship with this person, and that is the general experience you're going through at this moment. Do you say anything?
I just give sort of a half smile with one side of my face and keep my eyes closed.
I'll let the memory run for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll attempt to direct to the next one.
How?
Well, it's written in the power. You just do another roll like that.
Mm-hmm. But you have to speak to invoke different emotions or a different idea.
Mm-hmm. So now imagine that you've been just told the best news of your life. Maybe you're 5 and your mother told you that you're getting the gift that you wanted for all year for your birthday, or maybe even earlier than your birthday, or maybe perhaps a person that you love ask you out. Imagine this feeling of joy that feels almost like a tightness in your heart, but also makes butterflies flutter in your stomach when your skin is so sensitive because of the heightened emotions and the pure, unadulterated joy. And I'm gonna roll.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3 success.
All right. To what extent is Larry affected? Serena?
Yeah.
To what extent is Larry affected?
Larry basically sees or hears multiple patterns that invokes clear emotional memories. They cannot stop themselves from thinking of the memories, though they are free to act as they wish.
Okay. So 3 successes worth. Got it.
Mhm.
So, Larry, as you see these patterns forming, the shapes become a bit stronger, and you start reliving a specific memory. This time you are getting. You're still in tunnels similar to what you've seen, but you're walking down a very long tunnel. And near you are several other people, deformed people like the first one you saw. You notice the first thing that catches your eye is that you're not walking normally, you're limping. And you look down and you seem to have this very makeshift cane that you're using to help yourself along. The people that walk near you seem to be describing a number of things, but none of them really catch your attention until one of them sort of approaches you, closes a phone as if they just had a phone call, and says, "Boss, we got him. We found out he still has a gargoyle in Hollywood. The man is fucked. We can take him over. Like, he's not gonna be Prince if people figure this out. We can get you in that throne now." And for that moment, you feel a rush. A rush you've never felt before. Not while you were human, not since you awoke as a gargoyle. All the time you were a vampire, you cannot pinpoint any moment where you had this much of a rush. And that's the memory you experience.
Larry twitches his fingers, straightens them, then curls them again, and with soft smile just whispers, "Prince." Then he opens his eyes, looks to Serena, and says, I saw tunnels
Tunnels, okay.
and deformed people. They were
Deformed.
of my kind.
Mm,
The,
They were gargoyles?
no,
Can
but
you... Okay, how about this? Can you
one
maybe...
of them had
Like,
crooked teeth and a glowing eye.
okay, I have a suspicion, but would you mind bringing that image? Like, would you mind if I read the image from your mind? You would just
I
think of it, and I'd try to see if I can see it.
the image. Would you get into my mind?
Yeah, I could look at the image from, like, from inside your mind. Do you want me to do that?
I do not want to.
Okay. Then you're going to have to be pretty descriptive.
There was. They were talking about a gargoyle in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
They told me that some man got a gargoyle, and that is a mistake of his, and that
Mm-hmm.
I can become a prince.
Okay, so they were probably talking about Strauss.
Strauss.
Yes.
He gathers up immediately and
Sit, relax,
thunderbolt in his eyes.
sit, relax, and I do passion on him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Why does my sound constantly go down? Okay, I'm rolling passion to calm him down. Basically, like lower his anger reaction. Um, and and
So this will last for how long?
I'm checking. Well, you need to tell me what's the difficulty.
Let me see.
Path rating.
Path rating. I can tell you. I'll just say what happens. Hold on.
Okay.
So that's okay. Okay. So, Larry, for the next week, first, what is the main emotion that is dominating your reaction right now, or your mind at least? Anger.
A lot of it, yes.
Okay. So you suddenly feel that you can't get angry. Like you can't muster the emotion. It's not that you don't recognize what that emotion is, but you can't muster it. There is no feeling within you that you could call anger. And that's going to be the case for the rest of the week under any circumstances. You're not going to be able to get angry.
Nice.
Now sit down. Now, Larry, sit down. We're trying to put back together who you were before that.
Larry will just stand for a moment looking confused, like searching deep inside of his brain for the right emotion, but after not being able to find it, just sits down on the couch.
Okay. So now, let's go back to the people you saw like you. So you were underground in tunnels, you say, right?
Yes, and it was not long ago, I guess. Maybe.
I cannot tell you how long ago it was for simple reasons, because the memory that's being picked is the one most matching to the feelings that you were feeling when I was describing to you something. Okay?
Yes, but. Okay. I'm listening.
Okay, so Serena basically fishes out her phone, goes to ChatGPT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and basically asks it to render a render, so to say, like realistic looking Count Orlok from the very famous Nosferatu movie.
Okay.
And like make it a bit like like not make it pretty. And if the image is like, sort of looks like an average Nosferatu, having seen Oswald, Sosimo, etc.
Just out of curiosity, given the fact that you are using words to specify what you want as a result of this AI
Well,
generation,
basically, I'm
can
going to so like
hold on, just to see how long it takes. Just roll me real quick, Wit's computer, to see if you can come up with the right words to make the AI go, yes, I understand what you want. So the result is basically what you actually want. I mean,
really.
AIs are stupid. If you ask for an image of a Nosferatu, and you say, for example, make it look awful, he might interpret the image should look awful, not the Nosferatu.
I just told you what I
Hold
write
on.
there.
Hold on. Yeah, that's enough.
Like,
So you write these prompts, and there's a, 3 dots, 3 dots, 3 dots. And eventually an image pops up. Sort of looks kind of like the Nosferatu you've seen, even if it is a bit artsy.
oh, okay. I did add realistic there.
Yeah, but it's kind of
Okay.
hard for AI to make realistic depictions of fictional
Oh,
monsters.
and also obviously instead of like if in Serena's universe this movie is not called Nosferatu, she would use that movie's name.
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay. So yeah, she basically flips the phone around, shows it to Larry. Did the people in the tunnels look sort of like this, or similar-ish?
Larry takes the phone in his hands, adjusts it as old people do, just further and closer. Kind of.
While he's doing
Yes.
that, I'm gonna roll Mask of 1,000 Faces while he's not looking at me.
Okay.
Okay.
What are you trying to depict?
Oh, I'm going to depict a Nosferatu. Sort of like, kind of like a mix between Soshima and the person he described to me earlier. But, generally generic. So, like, I don't want to look exactly like somebody. I want to.
Okay.
Roll manipulation. Why are you flipping my thing? I'm
I
looking
need to
at
check
something. Does acting apply?
Not in this case, no.
Persuasive?
Also, no. You're not trying to convince or fake some.
Okay, I have one success.
Okay. Okay, so
basically,
there is
it
no
would
there is no needed expenditure of blood because you're not going above
No.
your appearance rating. Okay, yeah. So you can appear as a general, very basically Nosferatu version of yourself.
Yes. Basic Nosferatu version of Serena.
So Larry, you look to the image on your phone, and after a moment, you respond as you did. Maybe yes. And as you look back to where Serena was, instead you see this very ugly, sort of bald-ish, deformed creature that anyone who laid eyes upon her would know she's a fucking monster.
Or did you look or did the people in the tunnels look sort of like this? Because unless you let me look into your mind, I'm going to have to keep guessing. Unless you're an artist, I could give you pens and paper. So once
Larry will twitch when he looks at Serena. Just a bit.
And once Larry has looked hard, like long enough, 4 seconds or something, Serena just dispels the obfuscate.
And in that moment, Larry sort of realizes she never actually looked like that.
What happened to you?
I used So remember I told you, do you want to learn how to be invisible?
Yes.
Well, it's not exactly only invisible. You can also technically appear as someone else.
I see.
Which
Well, I guess they did look like that. Sort of.
interesting.
You
Interesting.
had a bad impression, by the way.
What do you mean?
You didn't look like one of them.
Well, I don't know how any of them look because you didn't let me have a look into your mind.
Well, they all look similarly ugly.
And since you were in the panels, I'm assuming it could have been Nosferatu Warrens.
Does Larry know at this point who's Nosferatu?
You'd know what the clan is. You struggle to remember exactly what they were all about, but the descriptions you've gotten so far sort of rings a bell. It's not like you don't know anything from before, it's just you don't remember anything about you from before.
Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I mean, historically, the Tremere have been known to use Gangrel and Nosferatu to, how to say, to make gargoyles. I do remember that.
Fuck Tremere.
I absolutely agree. Fuck the usurpers.
Do we
Not
This
literally.
message is officially approved by your local Zamichi archbishops.
Do we have them in our back?
No. Absolutely
Okay.
not. Absolutely not. Why would we? Look, the last member of the pack we haven't met yet because they're recovering from a battle we had is the leader of the pack, the Ductus. I'm currently replacing. That leader is Zenitsi. Remember, I told you about them. And Zenitsa really, 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 really despises the Tremere. We would not have one.
Okay.
So yes, we don't. But Strauss is the prince of the city, and a Tremere. A Tremere whose gargoyle and replacement gargoyle that was still being formed, we like killed previously because it was bound to him and attacked us.
So, um, really quick reminder here, or rather an intermission. Larry, as you hear the name Strauss. Before, you would have gotten angry. This time instead, however, you feel this abject fear, as if the mention of the name means you're about to... something that you really don't want to happen is about to happen to you. Sort of like a pseudo panic attack.
Don't mention this name.
All right, fine. I won't mention the name, but either way, so the Nosferatu clan, as I told you, are well-known information brokers. So I assume you were not the last person within their ranks, and that you managed to find out about the previous gargoyle he had. Perhaps you went to confront the guy, the prince, after we took care of the gargoyle, or before. Maybe he just staked you. But either way, my guess is that however it happened, he could have imprisoned you instead, because he no longer had a gargoyle on him because it was destroyed, and he decided to use you. Now, I'm not aware of any important Nosferatu who have gone missing recently, unless, let me think. When Soisima was still part of the pack, like that's when we dealt with the gargoyles. Were there any mentions from him about missing, like somebody from the Nosferatu clan going missing?
None.
Okay. So, yeah. I wouldn't know. And currently, I don't really have any Nosferatu that I can trust. But perhaps the Archbishop could have someone.
Can I attempt to read off her emotions about Nosferatu?
Perception, empathy, please.
I'm not rolling anything because I'm not hiding anything.
I rolled.
Okay.
It's
yeah, so Serena, what are the most obvious signs that Hugh would see on your expression, and some inferences he can make off of those expressions? Not exact emotions, but inferences, like assumptions he could make.
Well, when Soisima is mentioned, there's like this roll of eyes. Like there's no like negative or positive emotions when she's, like delivering this information. It's just delivery of information. But when she mentions Soisima, she just like does this very frustrated roll of her eyes. But when she trails off to mention the Archbishop, that potentially maybe the Archbishop has somebody that can contact, she, like she becomes very like thoughtful and sort of like a face of somebody who like a face when the cogs are turning in the head and you're like, okay, that could potentially work.
Larry just makes a mark in his mind to find out who the Sosimo is.
Okay.
Serena then like turns to him. It would be much more easier if our old teammate wouldn't have betrayed us. and gone to the side of the enemy, sold us out to basically Strauss. That's the Sorsimo whom I mentioned, a young fledgling Nosferatu. Mm, he
Why did
betrayed the
he
pack
do that?
because he was making mistakes that which he was warned about consistently, trying to, how to say, basically trying to leave all the heavy lifting for everyone else except for him. Whether it is in battle, whether it is when making difficult decisions, uh, and he just failed to understand that not everyone shares his human sentiments about what is important. Uh, the Ductus and I wanted to ensure that he lives. But the Ductus and I are metamorphosists. Our our approach is different. He failed to listen to my advice continuously, and after the last battle, when the Ductus was harmed, he ran off and also sold us out to the Camarilla. You know where Strauss is prince.
I see.
He was weak, and he continued to choose to be weak.
So, what about tunnel people?
Well,
The Nosferatu.
well, here's the thing. I'm assuming the tunnel people are Nosferatu. Um, I'm assuming, but to know for sure, I need to first uh, be aware if there has been anyone going missing. Mm, the previous gargoyles were destroyed, I think, more than 3 months ago, something like that. We found one still being made. It was quite early on, and the first one, yeah. So it's it's been a while, at least half a year, uh, maybe longer. Mm. So you could have been missing for even a year. Mm. Problem with tunnel people is because Soshima is a danger to the pack. Everyone here, the Nosferatu, I don't think they're going to be too happy to see me knocking on their door because they're going to assume that I'm there to bring Soshima to justice, which I probably would want to do anyway because if I'm already knocking on their doors, they might as well as hand the traitor over. The Sabbat has very
How
strict
can I
rules.
find them?
I mean, if I knew how you could find them, I would probably be dragging Soshimo staked here.
You have your ways.
I do.
Where are they?
I don't know at the moment. Underground, that's one. Around mm, around Hollywood, but Hollywood is a pretty busy area. So dropping in there would be pretty so-so. Besides, you don't exactly look like yourself. So, and considering the fact that you're currently with our pack, you dropping by there, Well, if I were Sosimo, really, really afraid for my life, afraid that the pack priest is going to show up and drag him by his weak ass spine to answer before the law of Sabbat. Well, if I even knew that my pack priest was hanging out with a gargoyle, why would I trust the gargoyle to be someone who claims to be a Nosferatu, whose names they don't remember, and so on?
Do
I
they
says,
know that I am with you?
well, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, because Nosferatu are pretty tricky and sneaky. Now we have to be careful, and I haven't seen anyone tracking us, following us, but it is possible, which is why we're going to be soon moving to another location. So, you know, mm, unclear, which is why first it would be probably better to mm, find out a bit more about your identity, recover a bit more of your memories, because at the moment, even if you were Nosferatu, you don't look like one. And if I was part of your rat pack, so to say, and some guy, some big boss guy, went missing a year ago, and then a gargoyle drops on top of my head, I wouldn't trust that gargoyle just because it says that I used to be your friend, but I don't remember my name. You see my point? How would I know that this is not a trap? By Strauss, by the pack priest who wants to get Sosimo.
Help me remember
Okay. Um.
my
Let's.
name.
Okay. Mm, let's see. Okay. I'm going to attempt to. So I know you don't have any memories, but you know that um, all of us at some point were humans. So we had families, mothers, fathers, etc. Mm, so I'm going to attempt because this is based on emotion. So mm, it's not exactly precise, but let me think of something. Huh. Okay. Um, Imagine a warm embrace. Um, a warm embrace of somebody bigger than you. Um, or maybe you're the one who's smaller, and you're wrapped in a warm embrace. You can hear their steady heartbeat. Maybe they're brushing your hair. Maybe the person is. Mm, maybe the person is rubbing your back in circular motions. But you feel happy and you feel safe, and the person um, basically repeats your name and says, um, "What a good," um, says your name and praises you that you are such a good child. And I'm gonna roll now. One, two, three, four, five, six. Number 4.
All right. Are you choosing the success to be at level 4? Just confirming.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Um, so Larry, as you hear this, once more you follow the first instructions you got. You look to the images on the TV and try to sort of
Oh,
relax.
I would have put like an image of kids being hugged by, like
Mm-hmm.
parents.
That's fine. You look to the image, and as you focus, you start seeing these patterns shift. And at first, the patterns sort of show like a pattern of cloth, right, pressed against your face. And as you see that cloth move away, you sort of feel your arms lift up, and Serena, you see Larry's arms sort of go around as if he's just let go of someone he was hugging. And you look up to see what looks to you like a nun, and you feel very tall by comparison. You feel very short by comparison to this nun, as if you were small and the entire world was gigantic by comparison. And the nun sort of pats your back, sort of rubs your cheek, tells you everything is going to be okay, and then takes your hand and seems to apply something to it. And as you look to your hand, you see this bruise that's being tended to. And that's the memory you're experiencing.
So I'm going.
During the memory, Larry will just, when looking at his nun, he will attempt to speak to her, just asking, "Who am I? Tell
When
me."
when Serena hears this, she attempts to direct the memory. So think of this emotion. Think of this happiness and safeness, but also imagine how your name is called out, and you're the one who was just picked. You are the one who was picked by someone you really like. You're chosen, maybe to help them out, maybe to go on a date. Maybe you're just chosen to go and just sit and watch TV. But your name was called and you were chosen. Larry, you make me say such sappy stuff just to attempt to see what your name is when we could just research a bit. Christ. I can't direct the memory. Oh, what? I don't hear anything.
You're muted.
My apologies. Larry seems to be a bit too stuck on this memory. He doesn't really acknowledge what you're saying.
Well, maybe whoever he's seeing is going to say his name eventually.
Am I still focused on that now?
Yeah. And you keep asking, but she doesn't seem to really react.
Woman, speak to me. What is my name?
So at this point you feel desperation.
Yes.
Okay. As you feel desperation, it's almost as if the memory shifts immediately to another point, and all you see is yourself running away. You're still small. You're still very tiny. You're running away, and as you look behind you, you see this burning building falling to bits. And just at the moment where you jump out the front door, you feel this searing pain. You look behind you, and you just see this beam of burning wood crushing your leg as people run to your assistance. And as soon as someone reaches you and starts pulling you away, you scream in pain and then realize you're sitting on the couch with Serena.
After the loud scream, a bit of heavy breathing.
Hmm.
What
So-
was that?
Well, Larry, you were reliving memories that you don't remember. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the TV, right?
Yes.
Let's say I start playing a movie on the TV. How long will you have to yell at the TV asking it to show you something else entirely before it does that? I'm gonna answer for you. No matter how much you yell, whatever's going on the TV, unless you use the remote, is not going to change.
What is
Now-
my remote then?
I am the one who controls the power. Well, while you were asking your memory to tell you your name, a really bizarre attempt, which I didn't really expect to succeed in the first place, but it was worth a try. You started getting desperate. Now, remember, I told you, imagine the emotions that I'm talking to you about, right? And you started getting
Yes.
desperate while this power was active. You started
And
remembering an emotion when you felt like that desperate last time.
I see.
What did you see, by the way?
There was. I was tiny, just
Mhm,
like
a child.
you. Oh, maybe even smaller. Half
Serena,
of you.
Serena sits at 1.8, like being like, what do you mean small? I used to be small. I'm taller now.
Mm.
Okay,
I
so
was
you were a child.
a child, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was running through a
Mhm.
burning building, and a piece of burning wood fell on my leg.
Hmm.
I even felt the pain.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's childhood trauma. I guess your leg got damaged when you were a child, which is why you were limping as an adult vampire.
Larry will just look at his leg.
Yes, well, you have undergone a transformation. There is not an inch of you remains what it was.
Mhm.
Okay. And earlier, you saw someone in a good memory. Who was it?
A nun,
A nun?
yes.
Hmm.
She
Um,
was calming and warm.
hmm. I see. Hmm. Well, I didn't really count on the name succeeding because mm, I mean, the emotions that I'm describing, you could easily get a memory where your name is not called. I don't even know the chances for this, so I can't even say 50-50.
Let's try that one more time.
The same thing?
Maybe change it up a little.
Well, obviously.
I will try better now.
Okay. Let's imagine something far more mundane. Mm, imagine that you're walking in a hallway, maybe like a bright lit hallway. It's a very average day. You're feeling very you're feeling a bit anxious maybe because you didn't do your homework or something. Mm, or maybe you don't like the lesson that's going to happen. But it's not really anxiety. It's just you really would rather be maybe somewhere else doing something that's more fun. And you get called by someone behind you, saying your name, greeting you, and that basically gives you a tiny just startle, and you look back and wave at your friend. What's it? This very calm, so to say, mm, teenagery. I don't know how to describe that. I'm afraid I don't really remember what it's like to be a teenager.
I
But
will try to pinpoint it.
okay, well, let's attempt. 1, 2, 3. One success.
Okay, so this gives you very vague images. So Larry, as you focus on the images on the TV, for some reason, the forest now reminds you of a few words. The word orphanage. Afterwards, you remember maybe a few names. All the names rather vague, not like you can pinpoint what exactly they are. And then after a few moments, you you think of something that you hate to hear, but that for some reason you know it means, or at least it was used as something people used to call you. Sort of like a nickname. And the word that you're reminded of is peg leg.
I was an orphan. My parents died in that fire. And
You.
the church took care of me.
Potentially? I mean, did you get all of this
I
was the
am deducting.
Oh, okay. So you're assuming based on the data that we have.
Yes.
Because you know that, for example, maybe you like when you were with a nun, do you remember limping?
Do I?
You wouldn't know, really. Because in the memory with the nun, you were sitting, so...
I didn't get a chance to.
Okay, so maybe the orphanage burned down. Don't know.
It was. No. No, it did not.
Did you
In the
remember something?
orphanage, I was called a peg leg.
I
I
mean,
don't
that.
think that is my name.
Yes, I don't think that is your name. I think that's just a cruel nickname that the kids gave you. But I mean, it definitely gives us something. By the way, when you think of the nun, or actually, no, remember. So think of the memory where when it was a fire. Did anybody rush to help you?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember what they were wearing? What kind of clothes?
No. I
Try to
can
remember.
try to look into that.
It was a very vivid memory, Miguel. Like with
It
full
was,
on
but
feelings of
not.
pain.
But in a situation like that, he wouldn't remember what people were wearing. He'd remember the fact that his leg got crushed by a burning piece of wood.
Okay, fine. Then, what about the nun? I mean, I really don't think that the nun outfits have really changed in the last century.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really going to help. But then again, convents and orphanages do on occasion have different, so to say, slightly different costumes. So,
Do you want to remember time
what do you mean time?
when I was a baby?
How would I know? I mean,
Help
Larry,
me remember.
Larry, I cannot ask you to remember an emotion, what you were feeling when you looked lost at the calendar. Do you understand that? Yeah. Just a second, the dog is barking. You know what was the issue? Malcolm didn't want to get up,
Oh my
and Ray
god.
couldn't get out of the balcony. So yes.
When I was looking at Nosferatu, he
Again.
had this ugly shirt
Mm-hmm.
from I don't know. Can you
Ah.
can you show me styles of clothes of different years?
Mm. Serena sighs. And then, look, I can bring a laptop. How big are Larry's fingers? Oh. Sorry, guys.
Now Malkov is DMing.
Uh-huh.
Apologies.
How big are my fingers?
If Serena were to hold her hand out like this, your fingers, like if you placed your hand on top of Serena's, your fingers would basically be like so, on top of Serena's.
I see. It means I'm mildly comfortable with a keyboard.
I mean, yeah, you do have claws, but you'd basically have to use it like this.
Yeah,
Okay.
Serena takes out her phone and then basically looks um, looks for shirts there.
Mhm.
But Larry can see that like there's no role needed. Like she's very annoyed and she thinks this is a pointless exercise. Because and as she's handing you the phone where there's a website open of something like styles through men's styles in the 1900s, right?
Mhm.
She basically says, "Look, Cainites, especially the Nosferatu, who spent most of their time underground, do not need to wear super stylish clothes because of the way Nosferatu look. If they're above ground, you know what they do? They hide from sight. Or they change their appearance like I did, only to actually look human. So the shirt can mean absolutely nothing. This Nosferatu could have been, I don't know, let's say his shirt was from the 80s. This Nosferatu could have been embraced in the 80s, and he still wants to wear clothes from the 80s. The closest style of the shirt, unless everyone else was wearing, I don't know, flared pants and weird bright shirts that in modern days look very girly, that that would maybe signify something. But the fact that even you remember this shirt as strange, ugly, out of place means that for in your memory it looked out of place, out of time. So
Okay.
I don't think this would be
This
this
is
would
the one.
okay, what do
Uh,
I see?
You see a shirt that was extremely like a shirt that just screams early 80s.
Yeah, it's the early 80s. First of all, early the 80s recently had a freaking renaissance, so to say, and they were popular again. Second, like I told you, this person could have been embraced in the 80s, and they love that style, and they're going to wear it. Was everyone wearing 80s clothes?
mm,
Is this an out of
Yeah.
okay.
character question or?
I'm asking
No,
Larry to
it
remember if
was it was only one person.
yes, so you cannot ever disregard the chance.
Okay, then tell me what to do.
Well, right now, mm, you should try to relax, mm, meditate on those memories, right? Mm, don't get too hung up on them. So, you know, you like going with to stand outside with the crowds, right? Mm, go ahead and enjoy that. Uh, try to meditate, mm, clear your mind, remember the memory that I just talked about. See if you'll be able to look further than that memory. And I will, mm, not tonight because I still need to tend to Cecil. I will give a few people a call, mm, see if they know anything about Nosferatu going missing in a very specific time period earlier, because I know when two of Strauss's gargoyle were destroyed. So we'll see. If somebody
When
from
was it?
the earliest gargoyle was, the first gargoyle was destroyed about a year ago. It was the next one.
When did the last prince die?
It's not. The last prince died 20 years ago? I don't know. Something like that.
If I was going for a position of a prince in spite of Strauss, and he got there
Stop.
first.
No. Think about it. Look, I doubt it. Previous prince before Strauss was a Ventru. Ventru are not exactly known for their skills in creating gargoyles.
No, Strauss created me, but it was after he got the power and decided to knock me off and make him
Are you
a
assuming
puppet.
things, or did you like, because you've told me that the prince had a gargoyle and you were
I
planning to use that information against the prince so that you would become the prince. Why
oh,
would a Ventru have a gargoyle?
Miguel, in this memory of a Nosferatu person telling me about the gargoyle thing, did they mention? Did they call this fucking Strauss the prince, or did they not?
They didn't, but they did say that whoever, they say that this person would not be able to hold the throne if others knew that he had a gargoyle. Does this answer your question?
So
Hello?
wait, he
Ah.
didn't call him prince.
Okay, so never mind that.
What was this roll?
Doesn't matter. I have like a 10, so I can, no matter what his willpower is, I can get like as he's remembering the memory, I can see it.
Oh, did you announce that? Because I didn't hear it.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
yeah,
announced in our common chat with me.
yes. I wanted to like message you, Miguel, in private, and I accidentally sent it in shared. So I might as well say it out loud. Doesn't matter.
You sneaky.
Okay. In that case, as you're trying to remember, Serena, you basically see the entire vision he had of that memory, including all the dialogue.
Do I recognize any Nosferatu in the
No.
memory? Okay, but I've seen some of them, so
Yeah.
I'm going to remember the one that's like most clear, or like a couple of them, so that
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Just keep in
So to
mind,
say,
you would know for a fact that if the emotion is connected to the news, depending on how connected Larry was to these Nosferatu, he might not actually remember their faces in the right amount of detail. So you'll get like some level of accuracy, just not 100%.
oh, by the way, actually, quick question. Since I saw that vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that recently, I found out from Oswald that the Nosferatu used to live in the warrens that Mariposa was in.
Mm-hmm.
But now they live in somewhere else. Do these tunnels look like Mariposa's tunnels?
They do not.
Okay. So, and I know Mariposa's been around for quite a while, so pretty much since day one.
We're talking about the memory where They're discussing the gargoyle, right?
Yeah.
So no, the tunnels do not look like the Mariposa.
But do they look like But I'm basically seeing Nosferatu, right?
Yeah.
It's Nosferatu. Okay. Right then. Look, I'm going to need to make some calls, meet some people, ask around, right? You're not exactly in a position where you can stomp around the city in looking like a, 5-meter tall statue? So you're going to have to, take it easy for now. I suggested to you meditation. I cannot promise you that it will work because premier magic could be, there could be some mental blocks with premier magic, but at the same time, as a Malkavian, who literally can cause mental health problems in other people, I do know that therapy can help. And thus, meditation could also potentially help. But you're going to need to, let it take some time. But if you want to be able, to get out and at least move about in the underground, the sewers, where Nosferatu usually live, I would advise you to perhaps take a couple lessons in obfuscate from Titus, let's say. I'm pretty busy this week. Maybe he will have time. But otherwise, I will see if I'm able to locate the Nosferatu my way. Even though I'm going to be risking getting aggravated damage again. But I can attempt that under one condition. If I find a location, we go there together, because traitors to Sabbat cannot, especially those who know far too much sensitive information about me and the pack, they cannot be allowed to basically sell the information to the highest bidder. I have plenty of reasons why all of the town would be just hunting me and not you. And that person knows those secrets, so at least while there's still some chance of avoiding that, I would like to take that opportunity. Or we do it more, calmly. We attempt to free some more memories from your mind, and I ask around people, find out. It might take a couple of weeks, might take more, but we basically first find out a lot about you, so that once we know where the Nosferatu are, we will be able to meet them. Either way, I think if you're someone who they call boss, they might be quite interested to find out what happened to you. Yes, I have a few ideas how perhaps I can find somebody willing to talk to me on neutral territory, but it will take time. Okay?
I have no other option.
Well, yes. Other option is to go running through the sewers, just waiting until Strauss sends his best hit team after you. Or until you run into the washed and die.
The who?
So you saw my pets, the small ones, right? Or the dog-looking ones.
Yes.
There's also big ones, like really big ones.
Mhm.
So, obviously they don't live above ground.
Of course.
But either way, we will be, perhaps, we will be changing location soon, to another area. So I'll pick something that takes into account um, your large size and charming looks.
Okay.
Right then. I'm gonna have to go now, as I still need to do therapy with our Ductus. But I'll see if I can get you, I don't know, some big laptop, like grandma-sized laptop, with a separate keyboard that's also meant for old people, so that there's big buttons. Maybe then you can spend your free time, looking up on the internet things about your potential childhood. I'll put some spiders to crawl the web, but it will take some time for results to return. And I will need free time to look through those results. But I'll try and get you your own computer too. Something that will be comfortable to use.
Okay.
And Serena makes a note to get a laptop with no camera.
I will account for this in your downtime action. And as it comes to an end, anything else you would like to add?
Larry would go in his place, sit around the birds, try to meditate for a moment, then look at the clock. How much time is it till the end of the night?
I'd say about an hour by now.
Then he would go into the sewers and just stumble around trying to find something.
Something specific?
Just a stranding man in search of his memories and his kind.
In that case, you drift off into the tunnels, and the rest of your night is spent just wandering, in a sense, trying to find your memories along with some meaning to all of this. And that is where we will end this section. We will take a quick break, and then we will return for the final part of today's episode. And we're back. So, on another night, Serena awakens, and as usual, she fetches what is to become Cecil's meal for the night. She enters his room, and at first it seems to be empty. But as the panic begins to set in, she hears a sound coming from the bathroom. Sort of a very odd type of sound.
I'm going to quietly approach and open the door. Like, not like swing it open, but like quietly open it and see what's going on.
As you do, you see Cecil in the bathtub with a very panicked look and holding a knife, just starting to saw off at the thumb stuck to his hand, like that extra thumb he has. He's like panicked and sawing it off.
What are you doing? And Serena basically just like drops the passed out person, because she actually would have taken a bit of blood from him so that he's docile. She just basically like carelessly sets him on the floor and rushes towards Cecil and grabs the knife out.
Grabs what?
Grabs the knife that he had out of his hands.
Yeah, you grab the knife, and at first he sort of gets surprised by it, and then just says, "I can't handle this. I don't look like me. What the fuck did I do to my hands?"
Okay. What year is it now?
2024. I know where I am. But what the fuck am I?
You are whatever you want to be.
He seems to sort of breathe quite heavily, even though you know he doesn't need to. And he stares at his hands with a mix of panic and confusion.
What is your name?
Cecil, Iris, I know who I am.
Okay. Right then. So you don't recognize your body at the moment?
Of course I recognize it. It just shouldn't look like this. Look at what I've done.
I mean, I have seen you, and many times I have seen all of your forms, and I've always considered them very stunning, unique, something that you've made out of your own choice, something that suits your needs.
Roll me charisma and expression, please.
I mean, I'm basically remembering, like how fascinated and in awe I was the first time. Yeah. Does smooth talker apply?
Yes.
Okay. Does speeches apply?
I'd say so, yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 successes.
Okay. So for a moment, he seems to consider what you're saying. And then he says, all right, but look, it's... Maybe I regret what I've been doing.
I mean, I guess it could happen. Though, maybe, I mean, considering that you and I are free to mold and change our faces, bodies, however we wish, I would say limiting yourself to only going in one direction when you start is rather stupid. Maybe if you think, if you feel, and you're not temporarily confused, that you want to go back to a clean slate and then start over, I will support you, though I will be maybe slightly worried because I do know that your current form is also, it can also protect you. And with Rourke being Rourke, I would be quite concerned. But
I
sometimes an art...
don't need protection. I need to be me. I need to return to what I was. I've already lost too much.
Okay. What do you feel like you've lost besides, members of the pack?
Look at us. What do you think we are?
I am me, and you are you.
We're
I have
monsters.
never tried.
We're fucked up monsters.
Why do you feel that way?
I know what I've said. I think I was wrong.
About
everything. Look at us. We are... How much do you remember from before?
I remember
I
everything.
didn't remember much, but I've been remembering. And the more I do, I'm not so sure I like it. I'm not so sure I don't want to go back.
Okay. And it is your right and freedom to do that. But I am staying as I am. I like it. And I was fascinated by you from the moment I saw you. I did not consider it strange. I did not consider it monsters. Look, if we're entering Morality Olympics, okay? If we're entering Morality Olympics, first of all, existing as a vampire is directly against morals. Second, if we're entering Morality Olympics, I personally think that concentrating on the fact that there are antediluvians who will awaken, who will devour first us, then the rest of the world, and leave nothing left behind, is something far more moral and right to do. And not monstrous. But we will have to stare into the abyss long enough to become the abyss because that's what we're going against. Demigods, basically. And I will respect your right to start over if that is your choice, if it makes you happy. But I'm not. I like who I am. I like where I reached. I am happy I got to be your student. And yeah, I'm not going to stop you from changing yourself. It is a metamorphosis. It is one of the things that we do. We change. But I like where I'm going, and I'm going to continue.
Okay.
I do not subscribe just to one form being what makes the human form better than the others.
Okay. Do me a favor. As you say this, I need you to roll me just a very quick perception and empathy. Sort of as if you notice a psychological phenomenon that's happening.
I have 2 successes.
Okay. So as you look at Cecil and he seems to be, well, frankly, quite panicked, eventually you notice that there's something familiar about the panic he's depicting. Something you quite relate to, even though you can't quite put a finger on it.
Can I roll something?
I'll make the roll for you.
Okay.
Because telling you what the roll would be might be giving some of it away. Hold on.
If that roll doesn't succeed, just tell me. I'm just going to straight read his mind.
Well, you got 1 success. So
okay.
You definitely know that what he's demonstrating, the reason it feels familiar is because you have experience causing this type of confusion with dementation.
What do you mean?
You know he had some problems, but the type of dilemmas he's going through, the type of complete denial of an idea he used to believe, while this isn't necessarily something you can do, it is something that you've at the very least seen done by other Malkavians. Especially elders.
So I'm gonna just sit down, sit down on the edge of the bathtub, and take his hands, and say, and just first give them a squeeze, and then give me a sec to gather my thoughts. Um, so, so yeah. So as far as I managed to deduce, we're probably give or take same age in vampire years. Um, maybe even same length of time of existence upon this planet. But more or less, we've been in the shape that we were for a while. Now, I know you were embraced by VtM, and thus most likely you've been trained with vicissitude from the get-go. Mm, I wasn't. So I believe, what did I say back then? And she gives like a light squeeze. I, I really needed to change it around because for 100 years, for 100 years, I was, you know, I had, I was not aging, I was not changing. There was just a bunch of elders sitting around, wasting their eternity on playing petty human games of influence and money, which is expected with the Camarilla when everybody's trying to win the rat race just for the sake of winning the rat race. Not for the sake of, like right now, when I need to take down the net because we need that position to be safer against Rourke. Or because it's going to give some benefits. No, within a large city like London, everybody is just forever playing the rat race of career. Most of them forever pretty, forever stuck in the same form, and forever wishing to either maintain whatever they have or only increase it. Sad, materialistic, and frankly boring. Because I don't think humans were meant to, stay forever the same. I'm sure you've encountered the elders who are not quite there, separate. But most of all, just out of time and out of place. Something that no longer changes or evolves. So when I came to your lovely little lab, there was a wind of change. Something new arriving. Now, I knew that my risks of dying or getting executed were pretty high. But nonetheless, death was more preferable than spending another 200, 200, 500 years being the same. And I'm not also going to give up on the mission you entrusted with me, but dealing with the antediluvians, because, to be fair, eventually, I am technically eternal. Humans will be able to reach the stars. And what fun new life forms can there be on other planets? I wonder what shapes they take, how they function. It'll definitely be a bonus if I'll be able to adapt my form to whatever's most suitable on that planet. But honestly, if Gehenna is going to happen, we're going back to Stone Age. And suffering through 10,000 years of human evolution and same old shit? No, thank you. I'd rather you take my head right here, right now. Because rinse and repeat for every day sounds like the most tedious, mundane thing you could wish on yourself. Now, if you want to change back to what you were originally, go ahead. But just remember that you're not a monster because you look like this. Like, who said this is monstrous? Somebody whose peak fashion sense is a fucking suit, for example, like a Ventru, or somebody whose idea of extraterrestrial life is something that looks humanoid, maybe just different colors. Like those opinions cannot judge them. Now, I've heard, and I've heard tales of the Dzimidze who go, a total horror fest. Mm. And if you were a total horror fest Dzimidze who was just making the changes for some shock factor, I would have not been fascinated by you. Because shock horror factor can be found in any 15-year-old edgelord. Art, grace, thought, bravery is completely different. So
as you basically speak of your thoughts about him, he just looks to his hands, one of them with this half sawn off extra thumb, and the other one looking the way he modified it originally. And he just says, I'm not sure what happened to me.
Well, we had a battle, and you ate an enemy of ours after.
After that.
Well, after that, we we needed to change havens because one of our own betrayed us and ratted us as a Camarilla.
After that, while we were here, what happened yesterday, something happened. Things I thought were worthy of my time. Things I thought were...
Well, Look, this is what I've been trying to get you to do, is to, do something. So if you were an artist, I would tell you, just draw whatever you feel like drawing. Since you're a metamorphosist, do something with your body. If it means you want to have normal human-looking hands like mine, with the exception of certain hidden modifications.
Make a
Go ahead
perception empathy roll, please.
Perception, empathy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. As you start mentioning the use of vicissitude, you notice that Cecil's reaction, uncharacteristically to any other knight you've seen him, talk about this type of stuff, his reaction is basically one of disgust. And by the way he sort of reaches back and looks at you, instead of looking at something he modified or something you modified heavily, he just looks at you like as a whole. You get the sense that it's moral disgust, which is completely out of character for him. Like it's a 180 from the previous night.
I'm reading his mind.
Okay, go on.
Right.
Okay. After a few moments, you focus, and it does take a while to sort of pierce his mind. You do feel him struggle. However, he doesn't struggle nearly as much as you thought he would. Like you expected Cecil, out of everyone, to almost be unreadable this way. It was far easier than you expected, even though you did have to sort of dig in.
Yeah.
And the thoughts you end up hearing, as if they were your own, are the general sense of doing this is morally wrong. And after thinking about it for a moment, the way he's reacting, the thoughts he's having, this doesn't sound like the mentality of anyone on the path of metamorphosis. Like it's directly opposed to it, if anything.
Right.
And again, I'll bring this up just one more time. Yesterday night, he was not like this. He was confused, but he was not like this.
So, okay. Iris basically just like sighs, then looks to him, and right out of the bathtub, and we shall go and learn. If you so dearly wish to find a new suitable form, first we will have to remember all the lessons that you've taught me. You have taught me, and now I will teach you. Do you remember our lessons? And I was going to slam him with a fucking thing.
With
But she's basically she's channeling, so to say, Cecil a bit. But she's talking about, the lessons
I
on
know
the
what
path.
she's talking about.
Okay. Okay. And I'm spending a willpower. 2 successes. 3 successes with the willpower.
Cool. So as you speak these words, you notice that for a moment Cecil's eyes look confused while watching you, as if he's seeing something that you're not. And then there's sort of an immediate change in his demeanor, and he looks to his hand with the thumb that by now is sort of hanging off just a little, and you just see it starting to close up, return to normal. And
Iris lets out a very fucking big sigh of relief.
And after he does that, he just looks to you and says, "What do you think caused this?"
Well,
I'm aware my situation isn't perfect, but this was not my condition alone.
Your condition alone? Do you mean there was someone else?
Someone must have. done something.
So you think someone did this to you? But, huh. Okay, look. Well, first of all, I do think that you need to start walking around the house. Um, since you're lucid right now, let's go to the cameras. Mm, since yesterday this was not the case, so I'm going to see if if there's anything going, if the cameras can reveal anything, and you can stretch your legs because you do need to start getting out of the room and not turn into a hikikomori. And well, we're going to be changing Haven soon, so you will be able to get back to experiments. Like I
He
said,
looks quite confused when you say that term, but otherwise he just goes with you, sort of shaking
hikikomori.
his head as if doesn't matter.
Is he confused about hikikomori?
His reaction is to that term, yes, but it doesn't matter. Basically,
Yeah.
that's he's like fucking weeaboos.
So since once we're in the probably in Iris's bedroom, he's going to pull up her laptop and look through the previous day recordings. Because she did have like a camera in Cecil's room, so she can check it.
Okay. So you start going through the footage of the previous night.
Also, because you said that this is like sort of very similar to dementation, right? I'm also going to look through hallway, basically in the house, but hallways, and maybe outside recordings, if we have like a camera towards the area where his room is.
Okay. Well, as you go through the footage, you start at the end of the previous night. You sort of zoom through the footage. It takes you only a few minutes. Nothing happened. You go to the start of this night, right from the setting, like the hour where the sun set, and you start going through that footage, sort of speeding it up until the moment where you usually wake up. And it takes you about 15 minutes of speeding through the footage. Eventually, you reach the hour where you usually wake up. And you see essentially a man open up the front door. A man you don't recognize. He just opens up the front door and starts walking down the hallway. You see yourself come out of your room.
What?
You look at him. He seems to say something. Now, the cameras don't capture sound, so you don't hear what he says. But he says something, and you just see yourself sort of go a bit like limp, like your shoulders stop tensing up, and then you very calmly re-enter your room, and looking. Do you have a camera in your room?
Probably not.
Okay. In that case, you just re-enter your room, close the door. He then walks room by room, opens the door. Sometimes he seems to say something to someone inside, otherwise no. And then he reaches Cecil's room, opens the door, and starts walking inside. Looking at the footage from Cecil's room, like from the interior, you see him approach Cecil, and he simply says something, and Cecil starts looking at his hands and taking a few steps back, looking back at the man. And then the man simply tilts his head, says one word, and then turns around and starts leaving the house. And right after that, Cecil starts pacing around his room. And then you check the time. Like the current time as you're watching this footage. And right now, it's like 3 hours after you're supposed to wake up.
Serena basically like freezes. She like, she's not so much scared for herself, right? She's not so much scared for herself as she's she's just terrified of the level of potential consequences that could have happened. The fact that he just walked in and what looked like dominated everybody and made them forget that. And she doesn't even remember. Do I know if like somebody who has dominate can release memories if they've been locked?
They can, yeah. You'd know enough about dominate to know that they can mess with the memory to some extent. However, you do also remember from your past in London, especially from the experience you had with around Ventru and your coterie at the time. You do remember that dominate can not only be used to alter someone's memory, but to also know if a memory's been altered and fix the alteration.
Okay, so I look straight at Cecil and I say, I need to know, like, I need to remember this person because then I will be able to track them at least a lot better. So, can you do that?
He looks at you for a moment and says, "Are you sure?"
Absolutely. If there's anybody I trust in my head, then it's you.
Okay. He looks at you, and I'm assuming that you are making no attempt to resist.
Absolutely. Like, no attempt to resist. I'm looking him straight in the eye.
Okay. Okay. He looks to you, and after he focuses for a moment, he says, "I can't. I'm trying to. Something's not right."
Do you think you've been commanded not to do that?
I don't know. I can't.
Can you use any other powers? Can you check?
He looks back to you, and as he's about to say something, he then says, "It's... I don't remember how to... I don't remember how to use half of the things I know that I used in the past."
Okay, well, fine. Name me one. Things that you used in the past.
I just attempted to command you, and I don't remember how.
Very well. Okay. Have you ever commanded somebody like with strong emotions or
No.
or angry, or when you've been like very angry at them, or maybe looking down on them.
No.
Do I remember Cecil using dominate?
You do remember he has the discipline, as he's used it in the past. You haven't seen him use it, but you know he's used it because you've seen victims of his from the use of that power.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to. I remember it now, like one of those guys. Do you remember once you sent when we went to pick up Rune? Once we went to pick up Rune, who was still stuck in a box, so to say, right? You've gotten a package, and you dominated him to find the needed shop, to find me, and to follow all of my commands. Oof. And I'm going to basically, after that, I'm going to start directing him through disciplines, just in case. Okay?
You're going to what?
I'm going to start after that, like after the initial one, I'm going to like basically like direct him through the powers I know, right?
Okay. Are you using as many successes as you got?
So I need what? I need him to. So I have here 4 successes. So that's for the first one. That's all I'm using because he needs to. No, like he doesn't need to act on it, but he just needs to remember.
He seems to, for a moment, sort of look up at the wall, and after a few moments, he then looks to you and says, I remember.
Okay. Can you try it? It's an experiment. Remember.
Kneel.
Experiment.
And as he says that, you immediately feel the need to just kneel in front of him.
Oh, I mean, doesn't even need to use the dominate technically, but
fucking simp.
So, Serena like goes down on her knees like instantly, but with a big smile. I'm like, well, turns out that I can get rid of that. So I have the rest of the day, the rest of the night free. Let's check all of your arsenal and make sure that there's nothing left. And we're gonna have to need to sleep somewhere else tonight.
All right. So, what is the time limit to which you want this problem solved so you can move havens?
Well, it's going to be like a temporary haven move, you know. And I still have that flat in which we met a very long time ago, right?
Yeah.
Where I stayed when
so you want to stay there, so there's no time investment need, really.
Yeah, just for like that one night. Well, actually, because of the way this guy walked in, I need Flachta. I need Flachta around. So it's going to have to be somewhere I can move them without any issues, and where I can basically, I mean, so actually, at some point, she just looks. I mean, Mariposa's warrants seem like a pretty good idea. The Schlachta can easily take, uh, um, hide themselves. Or there is this house where there's abandoned one, which we recently checked out. Um, Either location are good to get Schlachta there, and I assume your watch is still somewhere in the sewers.
I suppose that'll do. Yeah.
Yes, it will have to do for now, and I'll just have to invest time to make a few more protectors and figure out ways of stopping someone from entering while they're sleeping, like remote alarm or something like that. That will wake us all up. But let's then basically, technically, we could move now. We could move to that location now and.
Send the message out, but let's. I need this fixed.
Okay. Right. Then, well,
Okay.
let's get comfy.
All right. So
Serena
I want
basically
you
just
to. I want you to make me 2 rolls. One for the main discipline involved in this. That's going to serve
Yeah.
as all your rolls every time you use that discipline tonight. That's basically going to be it. And
Can I use her willpower?
yes, you can. And the other one is going to be a perception empathy roll to essentially see if you can correctly actually a charisma empathy roll to see if you can actually like evoke the correct emotions when using this power for the rest of the night.
Okay, so on the power I have 4.
With the use of a willpower point?
Yes, with
Okay.
the use of the willpower. Pelese, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Chunky successes.
Definitely... yes. Look, everything for
Yes. So yeah, for the rest of the night, you essentially go through each power that he has. He attempts to use vicissitude on you, which for some reason it seems to be impaired. And so you recall emotions that might have something to do with that. You then
I
start going through the powers that he knows he has, and he tries to use them on you. Essentially, you become the guinea pig for all of these things. And every time one doesn't work, you essentially walk him through memories of him using these powers to see if he remembers how to use them. And eventually he does remember most of them. You don't think you covered everything, but you're pretty sure you covered most of them.
I'll cover the rest another night, so I guess I'll change some major action to that. Because
this is basically how your night goes. From start to finish, you realize this extremely harmful breach of your haven. And you decide to move at the end. As the night ends, you basically arrive at the Mariposa tunnels. They are blocked off, but you don't need the entire system anyway. You just go up to the first chamber and you find spots where you find yourself.
I mean, if Larry would be there, if Larry would be there, I'd ask him to help out with that.
Well, Larry isn't currently sleeping in the same haven as you, if you recall. He's staying at the other one. Yeah.
What do you mean, other one? That was another night.
Well, they
Okay.
haven't returned yet because they're still doing
Okay.
their thing there.
Well, if they're no, but if they're there, we're gonna go there.
Okay.
Safety numbers.
Okay.
Safety fucking numbers.
In that case, by the end of it, you all move in. And yeah, you find places where you'll be reasonably comfortable. It's not like that house has furniture that you can sleep in on, but
we do
it's
grab all of Cecil's ground of
yeah.
like
You
gathering.
take the mattress essentially.
Yeah, but basically, remember that room into which Larry broke with the chains? Like, considering that it was Cecil, well, I suggest that room for sleeping, right? And if Cecil picks it, good. If not, I let him pick. But basically, I sleep in the same room, and the Flachta are also there. Well, one just outside the room or door, the other one in. And their command is basically if anyone else except the people who are here with us, Larry and Jack, enters this area, right? That one of them attacks them, the other one basically makes sure that I wake up.
Okay. So you basically set up an emergency system to make sure that
And I ask, yes, guard dogs, and I ask Cecil to make sure that his wash is somewhere close to, not letting anything enter through the sewers.
Well, Cecil essentially sets his wash up at the tunnels of the house, and you go into torpor, hoping that the next night you have a more peaceful awakening. And this is where we will end tonight's session. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.